Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5x3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5x3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to 5x3 Radio. Rebecca and I are here today. We're pressed for time. I'm pressed for time.
You're going to end up talking too fast.
I know. So we're going to jump right into it. We're right into it. It's been a couple weeks since we did a podcast. People really enjoyed the Charm City Strong Woman podcast that we did. So that was a good one.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Diego liked the fact that we did kind of a question answer.
A Q&A.
Q&A. He I liked how you and Rebecca ran it like Rebecca asked you questions and you answered the questions. It flowed really nicely. I was like, thanks. So that was nice. But yeah, people enjoyed listening to the who, what, when, where, how it all started. Yeah. So we thought we'd revisit a topic that we've discussed before on the podcast, but never a bad idea to kind of come back to it, especially since it's summer. People are traveling more. And with travel comes, unfortunately, sickness because you're around people that you're not normally around. And if you're traveling and you're on an airplane and you're, here and there, you pick up bugs. So I know a lot of people who have been coming back from their vacation sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had the clinic where I'm working now. We've got 5 people work there. Two people got COVID. 2 out of the 5.
Yeah. So Diego got COVID when he returned from his trip to Brazil for work. And I just had another member who emailed me recently and said, I'm returning. I'm getting over COVID now. And I had another client who wasn't COVID, it was something else that put her out for about a week and a half. And we were trying to, she was trying to figure out what should she do? Should she come in and train with me? Should she do it online? And, and I said to her, look, you're getting over your sickness. I want you to not do anything and rest.
Yeah.
And that's part one of what we want to talk about. We want to talk about training when you return from an illness, whether it's, anything, COVID, a flu, a cold, whatever puts you out, whatever kind of, makes your body have to stop and rest and not do anything, whether you have a fever or not. How do you return to your training versus you have an injury? Or what do you do with that? How do you train with an injury? Do you rest? Do you take time off? I don't mess around with sickness. I don't know about you, but I don't want people coming to my gym when they're sick, first of all.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's twofold, right? Like if somebody's sick and they show up at the gym and they get other people sick, you as the gym owner probably don't really want to encourage that.
No, and people are really good about not coming when they're ill, of course.
Yeah, and then also if you're really sick, training is going to feel harder.
Right. And I think some people, they don't feel well, but they don't feel that bad that they can't not come to the gym, so they do come.
Yeah.
And then they make themselves worse. Right.
Well, so it's interesting that you're talking about this because the way this has played out in my household in the past month is basically at the same time that the people that I was working with were sick with COVID. One of my kids who is working in like a preschool up through kindergarten over the summer got sick with COVID. And it was pretty clearly, I think, going around at the school. She's got the little 2-year-olds, right? She was saying, they're so little, they don't know the difference between ham and cheese. They're so little, when I'm sitting in a chair and they're standing up, they only come up to my knee, that sort of thing. They're so little, they don't know how to sneeze and cover up, all of these things. So this is the daughter that plays college soccer. And so she's got her summer program. Right. She's got, a certain number of lifts each week. She's got runs she's supposed to do, sprints, runs, longer distance runs. technical work, all of that stuff. And like, there was, I mean, for her, there was like maybe a day or two where she really felt like crap.
Yeah.
And like getting up off the sofa was something she did not want to do.
Yeah.
So for those days, getting her on board with the idea that, hey, maybe rest would be a good idea, that was fine. That was fine for those 2 days. And then after that, like, she still was, congested sounding and, not quite herself, but very much stuck on this idea. No, the coaches gave me this workout. I have to do the workout. I have to shuffle everything forward so I don't miss anything. I don't feel that bad. And so, we struggled with that. She did whatever she did, which was probably what I would have done, which was do the workout anyway.
Right.
And then about a week later, she looks at me and goes, I think I'm getting sick again.
See, and that's interesting because we don't think about that, right? We think we don't realize, and I remind everybody all the time, being sick is a stress on your body, right? That's why you get a fever. That's why your heart rate starts to go up, because your body's trying to figure out how to get better. So it's fighting with each other, right? So when you rest, everything kind of slows down and body's allowed to kind of go, okay, the person's stopping. They're not moving anymore. Now we can start to recover. Now we can start to kind of get the breathing back and the heart rate down. But if you try to push it too soon, you could actually make yourself sick again, or or worse than how you felt the first time around, right? You could have a relapse. And it's, and strength training is a stress on your body. And I tell people that was a stress on your body. Now this is a stress on your body. So you have to return to it fully. I'd say fully rested, or at least 99.9% rested, right? Maybe there's
and the thing of it is, I think with exercise, it is good for you. It's good for your body. Exercise does a body good, but we confuse the health benefits that you get from exercise with the reality that it is a stress on your body. Right. You're tearing muscle down, then your body has to rebuild it. You go out for a run, that's also going to happen. You're going to expend energy and your body has to, rebuild and recover after whatever exercise you're doing. But people get sort of stuck on this idea a lot of times, but it's good for me. It'll, and sometimes it does make you feel better, but, just kind of that imbalance with recognizing the amount of stress that puts on your body and the tax that puts on your immune system.
Yeah. I was really, good example of is the client that I have, and I have her once a week in person, and then I have her online. And she was supposed to go away for a week to a conference. And the week before that, she got some kind of food poisoning. Something happened to her, and she ended up in the emergency room, actually.
Oh no, that's miserable.
So they did a whole bunch of tests because they couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with her. But it really left her like really out of it, like nauseous, fatigued, fever. I mean, there was something going on. Like her body was doing something. It was trying to, exercise something out of her body. So we were supposed to work that Wednesday, and she, she's like, I have to cancel. I'm like, I'm so sorry, you don't feel so good. Let's see what, Saturday brings. And she was supposed to come Saturday. And she says, I just can't, I don't think I can make it drive. I'm like, I don't want you to drive. We can do something. Maybe she goes, maybe we can do something online. I said, you're going to your conference next week. I want you well for that. So I don't think you should do anything. You need to keep resting and keep drinking whatever fluids, whatever you need to do so that you are able to recover and go to Pennsylvania to your conference. Well, it turns out that was the best thing advice I could have given her, because her doctor was like, you're not going anywhere. You can't do anything. Like I don't want you driving anywhere. I don't want you doing anything. And sure enough, she didn't go to her conference. Her body needed the entire week after that to recover. So we didn't work that week either. It was the first time we worked was this past Saturday. So that had been almost 2 weeks. And she was just getting better. She was just feeling better. And she's older. She's in there. She's about, 70. So, and very active. But her body was like, no. I'm like, you needed the rest. You needed to really like stop. And I talked to her. I said, I don't mess around when people are sick. There is no kind of No, 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 you're just being weak. You need to, I don't do that. Not at all. Never when someone's sick, because the last thing I want to have happen is somebody does something and it pushes them further over the edge and they have a relapse. And we worked on Saturday and she felt great. And then we worked this past Monday and we're going to work today. So it's, so she really needed that time. And it was great because I always err on the side of, we're not doing anything today. You're going to rest. Now it's up to you to rest, but at least I've done my part and not worked with you when you were sick. But that
Yeah.
is a tricky thing to kind of get through to people.
And we've talked about this too. Some of it also comes down to knowing yourself, because
Mhm.
some people suck at resting. Some people suck at missing a gym day. Like that just hurts their soul.
Yeah.
And then there's other people where it's like it's already a struggle for them to get to the gym.
Yes.
Laying on the sofa, recovering is what they'd rather do anyway. So, kind of knowing when you need to push yourself, knowing yourself, when you need to push yourself, when you need to pull back.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. I remember when we got COVID, first time, and I only had it once. So this is Diego's second time, was in 2022. And that was the first time I'd missed 2 weeks of the gym. Because usually I miss a week when we go on vacation, right? Not do anything. But this was 2 weeks. And just walking up and down my stairs was like, I was like, there's no way I'm going to the gym. There's no way I'm doing anything. And it took a good month to fully recover from that. I remember that because it was just the fatigue. It was just I was so tired. I felt so tired. So I had no problem missing those 2 weeks. First of all, I was testing negative, but second of all, I could tell my body still was just not ready. It was not able to do much. Like I said, the walking was hard. So, understanding that the stress that the body is put on when you're training, then you're taking the time to rest when you're sick is like, okay, I can do this because if I go into the gym too soon, I could possibly make myself more sick and have a relapse and then miss even more time. So you have to kind of find that balance and use someone to help you kind of understand that and educate yourself on it. Different when it comes to an injury, right? So injuries are a little different than you're sick, stay home, rest. What about with an injury? And it's, this is where you have to teach people really to listen and understand their bodies. And that's not always easy,
yeah. Well, and
especially
also
if you
though,
don't see them.
right. But with an injury, it also comes down to how you sustained the injury. Like
Right.
if it was an injury that was from a sudden traumatic occurrence, like I don't know, something you drop a 25-pound plate on your foot, right?
Oof.
That's one thing.
Right.
um, or you aren't looking where you're going and you walk really fast into something and you get a bruised quad,
Right.
right? So if there's something that has happened that you uh, know was the cause of the injury, that is not something that you're doing repeatedly, that's one situation.
Mm-hmm.
The other is if it's something that sort of bothers you a little bit, I don't know, tight hip, achy knee, something
Mm-hmm.
that is gradually getting more aggravating, getting a little more painful, right? Then that's a different situation. That's probably got more to do with the way you're using your body.
Right.
Then you've got to pay even more attention to figure out how it is you're using your body and how to, change your form, be a little bit more efficient in your movement, to protect that area or
Right.
or save that area, retrain the movement a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Injury is one of those, it's, sickness is one thing. Injury is like, do I rest? Do I not rest? I always err on the side of, depending on the injury, unless you're in a wheelchair and you're in the hospital and you're strapped up to something, you should probably be in the gym. That's my criteria. Unless you are incapacitated because you literally are like at the hospital because you broke your spine, okay, But if you like tweaked your thumb, pruning something this weekend, or you kind of rolled your ankle a bit, come in. Let's see what we can do. Right? There's always you have two good arms and another good leg. If it's a leg, you have two good legs, another arm. If it's the arm, if it's two arms, you've got two good legs. I mean, it's there, there's that kind of look at your body, look at your body as a whole, not like an individual part. So it's like, well, the arm hurts, so that's it. I can't do anything. You have this whole other body that's functioning, right? I always tell people, can you drive? Yes. Are you going to work? Yes, you can come in and train.
Yeah. So I think the important thing to keep in mind, though, from what you've just said, so that people don't get that confused, is what you're saying is come into the gym, see what you can do.
Exactly.
You're not saying come into the gym and do your usual program, pretend like there's no issue.
No.
Oh, it hurts too bad, work through the pain.
Right.
Let's see what we can do that falls within some certain criteria of what might be considered an acceptable level of discomfort to other areas of the body.
Exactly.
And what falls into the area of painful and not benefiting.
I think it's pretty interesting to see how many people, most of the time, 90% of the time, person comes in, they've emailed me or they've texted me or whatever, or they come in, they tell me, and I'll say, well, let's start to warm up and let's see how things feel, first of all. And if it's definitely, okay, we can't do that, then let's modify it and do something else. Oftentimes, whatever they were feeling, they don't notice, they don't feel when they're actually starting to train. It's like kind of just goes away. Sometimes I may not even acknowledge it if I can see that there's not a problem. So it's, especially if they haven't done something in the gym, like one of my members tweaked her back painting at home, like leaning forward, in an awkward position, and her back kind of like, didn't like that position. But she said it lasted the next day. I said, well, yeah, because you're probably in that position for a long time. It's not going to just, come back immediately. Whatever you did, you kind of irritated something, you need to give it some time. And she was nervous about coming in to squat and deadlift. And I said, but you didn't injure yourself squatting or deadlifting. You were painting. It's a whole, and sure enough, when she went to squat and deadlift, fine. Like there was no issue. Yeah. She was just shocked. But unless it's something that you've done in the gym, and usually it's because you've moved funny, right? You twisted funny, something happened, something may happen. It's, it's usually, it's not all the time, but every now and then I can see someone being a little nervous about getting back to that exercise, right? Because that's the exercise that helped, that, did something to them. But if it's something outside of the gym, it's always a good thing to kind of get in and see what you're able to do and not discount other exercises, right? There's that kind of blinders. There's the blinders that people put on of like, it's all or nothing. If I'm not squatting, benching, pressing, and deadlifting, I might as well not even train. No, that's the wrong attitude too, right? That's a bad attitude also, this kind of all or nothing. If I can't do this program, I'm not doing anything. Well, you're just shooting yourself in the foot then, if thinking that way. The idea of training is movement, right? Moving your body. And don't discount anything. If you can't do X, you can still do Y. You're still going to be in the gym. You stay consistent with your training program. You're staying consistent with getting into the gym, moving, and most of it probably will feel better and will recover a little faster if you're not going to irritate that and you're still doing something as opposed to doing nothing. Because you have a tantrum, cross my arms, pout, right? And that's
it's that all or nothing kind of black and white attitude in a lot of ways that gets in people's
yes.
Just makes people stumble. But most of life happens in the gray area. So
right. I want to strangle people when they act like that.
Yeah. And so it's like this program or no program. Well, there's plenty of other things that you could be doing in the gym, but also on the other side, you're talking about the people who are hardcore, have to go to the gym, or, something's not right in their world.
Right.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the people who didn't really want to go to the gym in the first place. It's something they know they're supposed to do, but they're really much more comfortable just coming up with an excuse or blowing it off or whatever. And again, the black and white thinking is problematic because there's some discomfort that ends up feeling better when you do move. People have this idea that their back is made out of glass, and if they've hurt their back, they certainly can't go to the gym, certainly can't squat, certainly can't deadlift. Backs generally will respond better to movement in aiding a recovery from a back injury than just being still. You sit around and lay on the bed unmoving for 3 days because you tweaked your back. All of those muscles are just going to get tighter. It's going to get more sore. It's going to be more painful for not moving. People who have osteoarthritis, knees especially, it's counterintuitive. They're like, oh, it's painful, I shouldn't be moving. But movement is medicine. It kind of greases the joint a little bit. So moving without pain is not a black and white thing either. Sometimes, if you're not going to be totally pain-free, the day I'm pain-free is the day I'm going to go to the gym, means you're never going to the gym.
The day I'm pain-free is the day that you put me 6 feet under. or stick me or cremate me.
But bodies hurt.
I'm not, my favorite line, Craig, we all have, sayings when people say to me, how are you doing? I'm like, can't complain, right? That's my thing. I say, can't complain. Someone else says, good enough. And Craig is above ground.
I'm on the right side of the grass.
But yeah, there's the rub, right? It's I want to be pain-free. Well, pain, and you've talked about pain before, pain is, all different sorts of, of concepts, because is discomfort pain? Is pain discomfort? I mean, sure, things irritate me, right? My left knee is never going to be 100%. It's the surgery knee. It pops, it cracks, it's tight. It's never going to feel like the right knee. Should that be called for me to never do anything, never walk, never stand, never take the stairs? Well, no, it's a functioning knee. It's a hell of a lot better than it was when it was torn and ripped apart inside. But I'm never going to not have discomfort there. I'm never going to not have discomfort in my back, given that my spine is curved, right? I've got scoliosis, and I'm actually seeing my ART guy tomorrow to help me read this CT scan that I got of me. I went for my abdomen. I went to have my abdomen looked at because I've been having some stomach pain, some stomach issues, and everything's fine. But it was interesting to see my spine and to see the other findings that they found with the CT scan, right? So it's
you
not
opened a can of worms, Emily.
Right. And it's not, and I said to him, I was like, it's not that I'm concerned about like what I'm seeing. I know what I'm feeling. And now to see it, it's like, oh, that's why I feel the way I do. Because I am twisted. I am curved. I do have, spondylosis or spondylosis or whatever it is, degenerative disc disease. I mean, I knew I had that, but I was curious. Like, I wanted him to help me see what I'm seeing and help me read it. So it's more of a curiosity, educational part, but I'm not going to change anything because of this scan, but I'm always going to have discomfort. And now the scan shows me that this is why I have discomfort.
See, but that's interesting too, because like, this is why going for imagery is not the first course of action, because you have enough education about all of this to know that the imagery is going to show something, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And it's something, whatever shows up is not something that's going to cause you to freak out and say, oh, I'm disabled now, or I need to be careful. And like that for you is kind of more reason to stay strong, to continue lifting weights.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like at the clinic, there's lots of people who come in, whatever their imagery shows, they're afraid then to move.
Yeah. I mean, Jay, when I showed Jay, because I was like, look at this, Jay, take a look at my spine. He goes, oh my God, your back's broken. It's like, And, my ART guy was like, don't, I hope you're not like, worried because I don't see anything I'm worried about. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I'm not worried about it at all. I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated that my spine is the way it is. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't realize I had that much scoliosis, but my mom had scoliosis. So does it surprise me that I'm going to have something, similar to what
Mhm.
my parents have, have gone through. So, but it didn't prevent me from, hasn't stopped me from doing anything. I mean, I got that about a month ago, but I recently have pulled out a couple exercises from my own program. My doctor, Dr. Sokolinsky, who's actually not a medical doctor, but likes to go by doctor when he can, um, said, if your hips are bothering you, let's take out some of the deep hinging. So for the past, week, I'm on week 2. I'm doing every other exercise I can think of that doesn't require me to hinge, right, or squat. Um, and I'm just going to I'm trying to hit my legs as hard as I can via, glute bridges and reverse hypers and glute ham raises and leg extensions and leg curls and, things like that. I'm still pressing, I'm still benching. My upper body works just great. Program continues as usual. Um, I pull those 2 out in a month or so. If things aren't better, well, I'll put them back in, maybe they'll feel better regardless, maybe the exercise, everything will feel as good, and who knows what's going on with the hips.
Mhm.
There's a lot, who knows what it could be, but it's
So
nothing that's going to worry me and prevent me from like doing anything, because movement, like you said, is always going to be better than no movement. I just have to be mindful that I'm not doing more to like kind of aggravate things. So, pulling things
yeah.
out, I'm still squatting and
Well,
hinging.
so I mean, you and I talked about this a little bit beforehand, but like I think there's some context around pulling those exercises out that somebody coming into the podcast not having heard beforehand might benefit from,
Right.
because what you were saying before was that your hips were painful on an everyday basis
Yeah.
with everyday activities.
Yes. Yeah.
So, sort of playing around with the program to see if you made a change there, if that allowed you
It's
to
going to
feel
help.
better in your everyday life. And so that's sort of that's like a different situation than like somebody tweaking their back when they're painting,
Sure.
where movement is going to actually help keep those muscles from seizing up,
Right.
or osteoarthritis, where movement just sort of helps with the joint,
Yes.
the feel in the joint. You're talking about your everyday life was impacted by pain that showed up from some indeterminate cause, and you're just sort of trying to see if you can alleviate some of that.
That's it. That's it. I mean, I've said this for like years now. I'm like, I'm probably going to have a hip replacement. I have my father's hips. As I always say, I have my
Mhm.
father's hips. He has 2 hip replacements. I'll probably have hip replacements. And it doesn't bother me if that were to happen, because years from, I'm thinking that's years from now, if that does occur, the technology that we have and what we're able to do, I'm like, I could probably get a new hip and be like running, the next day.
Mhm.
Wouldn't be as invasive, but
Bionic?
I'd be a bionic woman. But it's more of like, there could be a number of reasons why things are aggravated. I mean, has my program changed that much? Not really. It's still the same program it's been. But perhaps a few weeks off of some things would be fine. But I'm not going to pull my hair out and realize, well, if I can't squat and deadlift, cross my arms, pal, I'm not going to do anything. That's the wrong attitude. And see, that's where people kind of get into a thing too, where something bothers me. Well, I might as well not do anything. Or, well, if you're going to take that out of my program, I might as well just, stop training altogether, because if I'm not squatting, I'm not living. Or if I'm not deadlifting, I'm not. If you don't have a barbell, you can't do a barbell program, right? Remember that from 4 years ago. So you do what you can do, never what you can't do, right? You do what you can do. Um, but the injury, um, coming back from an injury that you've sustained outside the gym versus in the gym, it's still going to be kind of a tricky, a tricky thing. My big mantra is just, let's warm up and let's see where we get to. Let's see what we can do. where can we go with this? If the knee's bothering you, where does it bother you? At the bottom of the squat, at the top of the squat, in the middle? If it bothers you the whole time, then we're obviously not going to squat. That's a good one. But if it bothers you almost to the bottom, well, okay, we'll squat to there. I have a client who has been having some knee issues, and he mentioned them to me, and he was going to see what he could do. Then he went to a PT, and guess what the PT told him?
What?
That his hip flexors were weak and his abductors were weak and something else was weak. This is a man who can deadlift close to 400 pounds. who's squatting, not nearly squatting what he could be squatting. He's a doctor, so he's got a very crazy erratic schedule. And his training is not as consistent as he'd like it to be because of his erratic schedule, right? So I was like, I kind of just, and I read that, I went, oh God. Okay. So I said, that's fine. You're going to go to PT. I'm sure they're going to have you do clams and glute bridges and something else. And he said to me, he goes, yes, I'm doing clams and I'm doing, leg slides, like, sliding leg, like lunges or something like that. I'm like, of course you are. Let's just figure out where you can squat to. Can you squat to below parallel, above parallel? Right. So I sent him a bunch of videos showing him how to like box squat and how to deadlift with an elevated bar. Like figure out a position where the knee doesn't bother you. Because it's something, I think it was his IT bands were tight. His IT band was tight.
Everybody's IT bands are tight.
I said, everybody's abductors are probably weak. I said, everybody's doing clams and glute bridges. I said, you couldn't deadlift what you deadlift if you had weak hips. I'm sorry. I think it's just the inconsistency of the training at times. And it's just, shit happens sometimes too, right? We kind of move in a funny way and we piss something off. Especially when we're over 40. So there, I said it. If you're over 40, something's going to bother you. Sorry, that's how it goes.
I think it starts for a lot of people in their 30s.
Unfortunately, that's unfortunate too. But I would say over 40, by that point,
if you've made it that far,
if you're a lot, I know I always say, I'm always surprised when people like injure themselves. I'm like, it's taken you that long to feel something? That's amazing. You should be so proud of yourself. It's been like, I've been training with this guy for a couple of years now. He's never had an injury. He's never had an issue. And this is the first time. But I'm like, I wish I was a physical therapy program. I wish I was 5x3 training physical therapy because, the things I could do then, because half the time of what I do is rehab, right, for people. But it was that thinking of like, no, you can still squat, you can still move. We need to figure out where you can move. And we take the weight down and we go real light and we real easy. I'm not telling anybody to push it, but I'm not going to tell you that this is tight and this is weak. There's no way you could do what you're doing. And clams on a guy who's close to 250 plus, it's not really the issue. Him doing clams is not going to make that knee just automatically, feel better. But, I digress. I'll get off my soapbox there. But it's, so I have to come in from the other side, which is like, okay, sure, go to physical therapy. That's fine. However, you can still bench, you can still press, you can still deadlift, and you probably can still squat. We just have to figure out where, right? Where's what the range of motion. And let's say everything bothers you. Great. Then we'll just pull the squat out. And there's nothing wrong with that. You experiment and you try, and then you eventually just kind of like maybe say, you know what, I'm going to pull this out for a bit, but we don't pull everything out until we figure out where we can actually move, what we can do, and, progress from there. I have these thoughts every now and then because of clients who, contact me about this issue or that issue. And I have to then find myself kind of going, yes, I understand, or sure, we can do that. I also want you to do this, right? To kind of help people understand when you move your body, something's going to give eventually, right? How do we not catastrophize it? How do we not make it
Yeah, I mean,
bigger
I
than it
think
is?
there's mindset plays a big role in a lot of this, not only in how you interpret um, like imaging results in a way or an injury in a way that
Right.
allows you not to catastrophize, but to focus on what you can do, but also just mindset determines how you interpret pain also.
Yes.
Like we've used the words pain or discomfort, but there's also just so many other sensations that a body can have that aren't pain, but that people shorthand as pain. So something that feels tight, or they feel pulling, or they feel like people get freaked out all the time by the feeling of like tendons rubbing against
Mm-hmm.
each other
Mm-hmm.
and kind of popping.
Mm-hmm.
And like I have worked with clients who have described that sort of tendon rub or pop as nauseating, disgusting, and something that has prevented them from doing a particular movement. People who are like very afraid of what bodies do, and
Mm-hmm.
some of that is just normal, natural. Like I have a client right now who's like completely freaked out by the feel and the sound of crepitus in her knee.
Mm.
Right. So it's like for me, that's like my everyday walking down the stairs. I don't even pay attention to it.
Right.
It's just a thing that happens.
Right.
But for some people that can be a limiting factor. I don't want to do that exercise because I feel the tendon rub or pop. And I mean, it's different if it's something that's causing pain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying just ignore
Mm-hmm.
tendon
Mm-hmm.
issues. If they're painful, they will likely get worse
Right.
if you ignore them. But sometimes just the way a body moves causes a sensation that people shorthand describe as pain, and then that puts limits on what they're willing to do. So
Yes.
mindset is a huge part of all of this, which of course, I mean, you already knew.
Yeah, no, and I think that would be a good place to pick up next time because we're running out of time now, but we're going to pick up with this in part 2 of training with an injury through an injury. And I want to discuss pain a little bit more too. I think it's nice to kind of come and revisit this subject because new things have always popped up. And I have a new way of thinking about things. And how do I talk to my clients about this subject, and helping them through it, especially with people, doing more. And the more people train, the harder people train, the more it's going to happen. The people who don't train as hard never really get to that point. But even they need to kind of be educated on what is pain, what is discomfort, and how do I scale it? How do I really understand my body? And then I have to deal with people who don't have any kind of pain sensors, so they can really do a lot, and the pain just keeps going up and up until they finally just tear something, and they're like, "Oh, it's been bothering me for like 3 months," and I go, of course, that's me. I'm someone who does that. So we will pick up this topic in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and in the meantime,
2.
for homework, everyone should sit down and journal and come up with as many descriptors of body sensations that you might shorthand describe as pain, and figure out what's a better descriptor.
I like that. It's like when I tell people, no, it's not that's bad or wrong. It's just not as desirable. It's less desirable.
It's less optimal.
It's less optimal. Yes. So yeah, I like that. So that's your homework, everybody who's listening to this podcast. And we'll pick up with part 2 of our training through an injury, with an injury, pain talk in a couple weeks. So join us then. And of course, you can always email us in between that time at Emily@5by3.com or Rebecca at
cornerstonestrengthmaryland@gmail.com.
So we'll see you in a couple weeks with a continuation of this discussion. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 5by3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5by3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.